Call this meeting to order. Can I get a roll call?
Councilmember Lormore.
Here.
Councilmember Rush.
Here.
Councilmember Simmons.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Tassari.
Here.
And Mayor Bootsma will be marked absent.
Our invocation is going to be led by Pastor Tim Eaton from Edgewater Lutheran Church. Is Pastor Eaton here?
I don't see him.
We can go ahead and move to the pledge. Councilmember Simmons, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Place your right hand over your heart and repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah. All right, once again, if you have a comment, please fill out a comment card, and we're going to go ahead and move to our closed session.
What would happen in closed session?
I don't think so. I don't have to report.
The attorney.
All right, we're going to go ahead and call the meeting back to order.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Let's report out of the closed session. The City Council did conduct a duly authorized closed session under the Government Code. There were two items that the City Council discussed. One was conference with real property negotiators at 13175 Orange Street, Eastvale, California. Negotiating parties, City Manager Craig Kirshner as trustee of the Craig A. Kirshner Revocable Trust. Discussion was price terms. At this point, there's no reportable action on that item. The second item is conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, in particularly significant exposure to litigation to paragraph 2, subdivision D of section 54956.9. The City Council discussed one case, and at this point, there's no reportable action on that. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for your patience. We're going to go ahead and move on to our announcements and presentations. And the first one we're going to do is our Red Ribbon Week proclamation. That is Red Ribbon. All right. Whereas the city of Eastvale, do we have a representative?
Looks like.
Hey, all right.
All of us?
Photo time.
On behalf of the city of Eastvale, we want to proclaim October 23rd through 31st of 2016 Red Ribbon Week.
Can I keep it on?
All right, we're here to accept this proclamation. Thank you very much.
Okay, so we have a Red Ribbon Family Fun Festival upcoming on October 30th. It's on a Sunday. It's at Promenade Park, and I would just like to invite everyone to come over. There's free entertainment and activities, and there's an opportunity drawing for Disneyland tickets and other great prizes. And it's just an event for you guys to come, become more aware of what's going on and how everything affects your body and your mindset. So I hope to see you guys there.
Thank you very much. Do we have any City Council of Eastvale does hereby proclaim National Beautiful Workplace Bullies Week and commends the California Healthy Workplace Advocates and the Workplace Bullying Institute, which raises awareness of the impacts and solutions for workplace bullying in the United States and encourages all citizens to recognize this special observance. And I have Morgan Batiste. Morgan. Okay. The City of Eastvale would like to present you with this certificate of appreciation. This goes to Morgan Batiste for her participation in the 2016 9/11 Memorial and Moment of Silence. Thank you, Morgan. Victor Casas. Do we have Victor? Boy Scout Troop 2012. All right. On behalf of the City of Eastvale, I'd like to present you with this certificate of appreciation for Boy Scout Troop 2012 for their participation in the 2016 9/11 Memorial and Moment of Silence. Thank you, guys. Are you guys accepting for Troop 803 as well, or Boy Scout Package 03? All right, the City of Eastvale presents this certificate of appreciation to Boy Scout Pack 803 for their participation in the 2016 9/11 Memorial and Moment of Silence. Can I get Girl Scout Troop 152? On behalf of the City of Eastvale, I'd like to present Girl Scout Troop 152 with this certificate of appreciation for your participation in the 2016 9/11 Memorial and Moment of Silence. Does anybody have anything they want to say? Speech. All right, people. We have Girl Scout Troop 125. On behalf of the City of Eastvale, I'd like to present this certificate of appreciation to Girl Scout Troop 125 for your participation in the 2016 9/11 Memorial and Moment of Silence. Thank you, guys. Thank you very much. from 724.
All the folks, once you fill in here, everyone get a couple of booths here. Future of Eastville. Yes, he's doing 21.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks for waking up early.
You almost there?
I am.
Going to Hawaii for 5 days.
You sure you're gonna listen to Deacon
I'm leaving Saturday for 2 weeks.
It said so. It said Deacon.
We're going to move on to our battalion chief and our new fire truck presentation. Hey, everybody, all of you that received awards, we're going to be doing a fire truck presentation if you want to stick around and see our city's new fire truck.
Free rides, sirens,
Chief.
lights and sirens.
Yeah, thank you, council. Council and residents, I'd like to invite you outside for a minute. Go out and take a look at the new fire engine for the city.
Thank you, sir. We're going to take a short recess. Much shorter than the last one.
Come on.
Can we have our student liaison report? Natalie Diaz.
Thank you. Okay, so Eastville Elementary has been very busy lately. Conferences for tracks B, C, and D will be starting soon. Conferences for B track are going to begin on October 14th, and conferences for track C and D will begin on October 17th. And last Friday, October 7th, Student Council sponsored an exciting superhero day for the school. And awards assemblies are also coming up soon. Track B will be having their awards assembly on October 18th. D track will have theirs on October 21st, and C track will have theirs on October 24th. The annual Great Shakeout is also coming up on October 20th at 9 a.m. Eastville Elementary is also excited for celebrating the upcoming Red Ribbon Week, and they will be having a BMX performance for the student body. And after school on Mondays, they are offering engineering for kids, and also after school on Wednesdays, they are having chess masters. So another event to look forward to is the annual Turkey Feast, or feast that will be taking place on October 20th. Ronald Reagan had a very successful walk to school day last Wednesday, October 5th. They would like to thank the city for their support and donations. Furthermore, they will be hosting an exciting event, Jump Rope for Heart, on October 14th. And also, Ronald Reagan will be having a blood drive on October 14th from 2 to 7 p.m. And they would like to invite all the community to come out and support and donate. They will also be taking part in Red Ribbon Week from October 24th through the 28th. And Reagan is very excited to be hosting their Fall Family Fun Festival on October 28th. River Heights Intermediate School also had a very successful walk to school day with about 450 participants walking to school. The school is currently in the midst of preparing for their What If Week that will run from October 17th through the 21st. The themes for this year will be, what if everyone donated? What if everyone had a friend? What if there was no bullying? What if there was no cancer? And what if everyone showed appreciation? And the school's PTSA is also going to be hosting a blood drive on Monday, November 14th from 1 to 6 p.m. at River Heights Intermediate School. They encourage the community to come out, support, and also donate blood if they can. And Dr. Augustine Ramirez Intermediate School is excited to announce that their annual Food Truck Festival will be this Friday, October 14th from 5 to 10 p.m. And this event is great for the whole family. There will be lots of vendor booths selling items. Also, there's going to be a fun kids zone with exciting games and bounce houses for all children. And there will be almost 20 food trucks at the event from all over Southern California. And the Food Truck Festival serves as a great fundraiser for Ramirez's ASB, and proceeds will be going back to the school. And the community is all invited and encouraged to come out, have a good time, and support. Claire Barton also has some exciting events coming up. This week, they are hosting Red Ribbon Week, and the theme this year is YOLO. And to support being drug-free, the school will be having dress-up days and contests throughout the week. And the month of October is also Anti-Bullying Awareness Month. And next Wednesday, on October 18th, the school will be wearing orange and participating in a march around the school and park to showcase their unity against bullying. So, any questions?
Are they gonna have the lobster truck over at the Barton, you know?
I'm not sure exactly. I'm sure there are probably 20 food trucks.
I like the bacon truck. Yeah. Any other questions?
No.
That's great.
All right, thank you, Natalie. We're going to go ahead and move to item 6, public comments. Anybody? I have several up here. Are you guys speaking on a particular item, or are you going to speak now?
Yeah, they have the item number.
Now? Stacy McDaniel, it looks like you have 4 minutes. One of your friends out there gave you 2. Okay.
Correct. My name is Stacy McDaniel, and I've lived in Eastville for approximately a year and a half. I want to first start by saying that I feel Okay. I wanted to start by saying I do feel extremely blessed to live in Eastville, and that is one of the main reasons I'm coming forward to ask you and to speak in regards to the burden housing. My specific question is in regards to an ordinance. I believe I heard either the last meeting or the meeting before that we have very similar ordinance to what Arcadia and Chino Hills has used. And I just would like just a quick second to read that. It's Arcadia used 9220.9.1, boarding house. A boarding house is a residence or dwelling other than a hotel or motel wherein 2 or more rooms with or without individual or group cooking facilities are rented to individuals under separate rental agreements or leases, either written or oral, whether or not an owner, agent, or rental manager is in the residence. I think my main point that I would like to ask is that if we could put this on the agenda for next week, I can't find where we have this specific verbiage. I think there's 2 key points that could really help us in regards to getting rid of these facilities that we all know are taking place within our city, these burden houses. I think it's critical that the piece in our ordinance has 2 or more rooms are rented to individuals under separate rental agreements. And it can also be either written or oral, the agreement. I think that would be a huge help to us. But again, I'm just asking that officially maybe we could get that on the agenda for next week, because maybe I'm just not seeing it. And I would love to be able to understand and see what we have that's very similar. It seems to really help both of us. And the last piece is in regards to resources and a game plan. Again, I've been here, I've listened into some of the meetings. I acknowledge that this is not something easy for us to take care of. But being that this city is so wonderful, I'm really looking to you to board to address this, a timeline. I've heard a lot of what's challenging and what's standing in our way, but I would like as an agenda item next week to understand what we are doing now. Thank you.
Thank you, Stacy. Next up is Kathy Johnson, and it looks like you have 6 minutes.
On September 28th, I attended the City Council meeting that evening, and I spoke about finding solutions to the significant and growing issue of birth homes in our city. I suggested that the city look into creating a new ordinance or revising an existing one against boarding homes in residential zones. I offered an example of an ordinance enacted in Chino Hills, which prohibits, as was mentioned a moment ago, 2 or more rooms rented concurrently to separate renters. At the last meeting on October 5th, the city manager reported on 2 years of code enforcement activity regarding birth hotels. She said that no health violations have been found, no building violations have been found, and that it's very hard to prove that business is taking place. She did not, and please correct me if I'm wrong, speak to whether the city's boarding home prohibition had been the impetus of any investigation. She mentioned that the prohibition on renters of 30 or less days does not apply, but I don't recall her looking into longer-term situations. Following her report, I again asked the council members if the city could create a new code or revise existing code mirroring that of Chino Hills to prohibit boarding homes in residential zones. No one responded to my request. A few minutes later, another resident spoke and asked several times what could be done in regards to my request for a new ordinance or revision of an ordinance. At that moment, our city attorney volunteered that we already have code that addresses boarding homes. That was a surprise to me and to the other residents that hadn't heard that in the city manager's report. The city attorney also mentioned that the exchange of money is difficult to prove when one is doing an investigation on whether a business is taking place. I have 2 ideas that I'm asking tonight for the council to consider. The first one is, for the 3rd time, I'm asking the city council members to consider code that mirrors Chino Hills, a prohibition on boarding homes with 2 or more rooms being rented to concurrent and separate renters. The city manager's first job descriptor, if I'm not mistaken, is to enforce city code. I am hopeful that with a revised code and additional code enforcement hours, the city is able to enforce this very code. My second idea is to follow, it's a little bit different from what I just mentioned. This would be an either-or situation. My other idea is to follow the lead of other cities who have explicitly prohibited birth homes in residential zones. These birth homes have been defined as those offering board and care to women for several months of their pregnancy, pre-birth and post-birth care. I think that such a code would make investigators' job much easier. I think it would be much easier to prove that there is a birth home situation happening than trying to prove that separate renters exist. We already have documented many pictures of pregnant women in groups being shuttled to these homes, being shuttled to the doctors and taking walks around the parks. And then we see the babies coming home from the hospitals in their carriers, and then we see them leaving with suitcases. So it's not difficult to document that a birth home would be taking place within a neighborhood. The other advantage of a code explicitly prohibiting birth homes in residential zones is that the word will go out quickly among birth hotel operators who surely work together in many cases, and they are constantly researching what is happening in the different cities within Southern California. The operators will quickly learn that our city is no longer turning a blind eye to their operations. There are many brand new homes on the market in Eastville. As you know, some are up to 7-bedroom homes, and that's a concern for a lot of us. So if we act now on an explicit birth home prohibition, that will prevent an expansion of this industry as our city continues to grow. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Any comments, questions? All right, we're going to go close the public comments, and we're going to move on to item 7, consent calendar. Does anybody have anything they want pulled from the minutes?
I move approval.
Second.
Councilmember Livermore?
Aye.
Councilmember Rush?
Aye.
Councilmember Simmons?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Tesari?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0.
7.2, Eastvale Connection. You're going to receive and file that? That was part, okay.
That was part of your motion.
Alrighty. We're going to move on to council business, 9.1.
Close that PowerPoint.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and council members. I'm Craig Bratch, supervising engineer. Recently, the city received 6 bids for the installation of 12 radar speed control signs. We've been reconsidering the project, and we've determined it's probably in the city's best interest to modify the bid and to make the radar speed signs more school zone specific. Of course, if I can figure out how to use this now. There we go. This is what we're proposing to go back out to bid with. 10 of the locations are within school zones. These signs would be located within the school zones, and before school and after school, when children are present, the lights will flash and it'll show your speeding limit. These have been shown to be very effective to alerting drivers to slow down. They're a little bit different signage, and the flashing beacons flashing just during certain periods are very effective. These signs you can actually program for up to a year in advance with the school schedules, and this is what we're proposing to install. Previously, what we had was your standard speed signs with the white background that would flash and give your speed and say slow down. We are still proposing those for 2 locations, but in all the school zones we would be using this type of sign. And in addition, we're strengthening our specifications. This is an or equal type of bid, so we have to be very specific about exactly what we're looking for. There are a lot of different manufacturers of these types of signs. Now, this project's funded through the WRCOG Beyond grant program, about $83,000 of it, and also Measure A funds. The engineer's estimate's around $113,000. And so staff recommends rejection of the current bids and the rebidding of the project with a school zone specific signage. And that concludes our presentation.
Thank you.
No, I have the locations. I think that's included also in the attachment.
Any questions?
No question.
I would move approval.
I'll second.
Councilmember Livermore?
Aye.
Councilmember Rush?
Aye.
Councilmember Simmons?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Tesari?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0.
We're going to move on to 9.2, which is amend the budget for fiscal year 16-17 to include funding for school crossing guards at 3 locations.
In response to parents' concerns with pedestrian safety, Public Works staff has performed a crossing guard warrant study at a number of intersections around Ronald Reagan and Claire Barton schools. The criteria is found in the Uniform Traffic Control Device, Manual for Uniform Traffic Control Devices, and this is the basic criteria that we use, and it's a fairly rigorous standard. You have to have a minimum of 350 vehicles traveling across the crosswalk during any 2 hours, and not necessarily consecutively, and a minimum of 40 pedestrians crossing the crosswalk during the day.
That's high. That's high.
We came up with 3 locations that met these warrants. The first location is Claire Barton Elementary School at Walnut Grove Avenue and Eastvale Parkway. And this next location was Fieldmaster Street at Cherry Creek. and field master at Fall Creek Drive at Ronald Reagan Elementary School. Staff recommends approving a budget adjustment for the 16-17 fiscal year to include funding for school crossing guards at these 3 locations, and the cost will be $22,294. This represents the city's share of the cost, with the school district contributing 50% of the cost. And we have an agreement from 2012 where the school district agreed to fund 50% of the cost, and they also coordinate the hiring and training of the crossing guards. Ingrid Chayati, our assistant engineer, is also here to answer any questions. That concludes staff's presentation.
Thank you. Do we have any questions?
No questions, just a comment. I'm glad that this is the location that we redid the warrants on, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, so I'm glad we got this figured out. I think a lot of people will be very happy, so.
Yeah. Councilman Simmons? No. Councilman Lerman? I had a question about the bend in the road on the east side. Did we do a study over there? Did we do a study on the east side where the bend in the road is?
Yes, we did a study of 7 intersections. We collected the traffic data and did the crossing guard warrant for 7 intersections around the school.
Because I know that's where the highest volume of complaints were coming from, because that curve, when there's a lot of cars parked, it kind of creates blind spots. So when people are crossing the street, it's pretty hazardous. When we do the studies, is there any consideration regarding the way the road is situated? Yeah, I mean, it's not just a straight line versus a curve in the road. Does that change the threshold that's needed?
For the crossing guard warrant, we consider the number of vehicles and the number of pedestrians. Not exactly consider the condition of the roads.
Okay.
That's going to be an engineering judgment.
Thank you.
I'll move approval.
Second?
Councilmember Loremore?
Aye.
Councilmember Rush?
Aye.
Councilmember Simmons?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Nasari?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0.
We're going to move on to item 9.3, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Eastvale, California, amending Chapter 6.72 of the Business Registration Certification Program, amending Sections 6.72.070B and C, establishing an inspection of home occupation businesses.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and members of the City Council. We are proud to present to you another tool in our toolbox, which we believe will be beneficial to our planning department, our building and safety department, and our code enforcement. As you know, the city does have a very progressive business registration certification program, and we have a very progressive single-family rental registration program, which we feel are very good tools in those areas which we talked about. One of the aspects for business registration is, under our current code, a home occupation is considered a business and therefore is required to secure a business registration certificate. However, one of the problems is that a home occupation is really a non-residential or business use that is conducted in a residential area, which is incidental to the residential use of the dwelling, and it's designed not to change the character of the surrounding area by generating more traffic, noise, storage of material than would be normally associated with a residential zone. So in other words, a home occupation is designed purely to be incidental to the family dwelling and not to really turn it into a commercial use. Home occupation businesses are subject to the business registration certification program, as I stated earlier under 6.2 of the code. Unfortunately, when a business registration certificate application is submitted by an owner of a home occupation, the city staff is really unable to visually determine whether the proposed home occupation conforms to city laws and zoning regulations. Consequently, a home occupation may be issued a business registration certificate and still be in violation of the city's municipal code or zoning code. And the reason why that is because the home occupations are located within residential zones. That is, it's a residential dwelling. Therefore, in order to ensure that the proposed home occupation is not operated as to create a change in character of the surrounding residential area, it is incumbent that prior to issuance of a business registration certificate, that city staff be able to conduct an inspection of the proposed home occupation located within the residential dwelling. These inspections are hoped to reduce the likelihood of illegal home occupations, garage conversions, and those type of uses converted to commercial uses. What we will do is, at this stage, we would like to council to approve the ordinance amendment, and then at the next council meeting, we will present to you resolutions establishing what that fee of the inspection is. The process of which the inspection takes place is actually identical to the inspections that we do under our rental registration program. So there will be an opportunity to contact the individuals when they submit an application for a business registration, and then we can go through the process of setting up a time to meet with them, to conduct the inspection to ensure that the home occupation conforms to all city laws and regulations. Just to give you an example, we've had probably a number of cases where the application for the business registration certificate is a home occupation, but the business owner not necessarily either did not articulate in detail what that business is or wasn't exactly forthwith on what that proposed use is. And unless we can go out there and confirm it and to make that inspection, we won't be able to do that. So this gives us what we call a more proactive tool, rather than having just a business registration certificate issued, finding out that the home occupation may not conform, and then we have to resort to code enforcement. So this gives us the opportunity to be much proactive so that a legitimate home occupation is afforded the opportunity to conduct business legally in the city and trying to keep those that are not legal out of the city. That basically concludes my presentation. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions.
Question.
Councilman Rush.
Thank you. I think this is a good, as you mentioned, John, a tool, a toolbox to help solve a number of issues, some of what were discussed today earlier during open comments. My question is in regards to kind of the status of the business. For example, if someone comes in to file for business registration and it's for, internet vitamin sales, and we go to the house and there's nothing there. Oh, I'm starting up, I haven't started yet, and it turns out to be something else. How are we going about rectifying those issues? Because, if I were to file for a business registration, I may not have everything up and running at that point, and as we know, things morph and change and evolve and creep into that category of being prohibited.
That's a very, very good question, Councilmember Rush, and that was a similar question that I think one council member brought up when we had the rental registration. It was, when the initial application is made, we conduct the inspection. There's always the chance that a use may change after the certificate is issued, or whether it's rental registration or the business registration. What can I say, though, is what helps us is that it creates a record for us. And basically, if there are complaints later on of a use or some operation on that particular business that shows that it's different from what we accepted or what we recognize, we now have a very good remedy to go back to that person and revoke those permits and say, now you're operating legally. But if we don't have that initial inspection, and you are right, that's going to happen, and we've seen that happen. But this does give us a database, and one of the things that really help us in code enforcement and in planning and building safety is having this database so that we can see right away if there is a complaint or if something, a drive-by, and they see something that's not consistent with what we approved. That gives us an instant opportunity for correction.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Simmons?
I'm okay.
Councilman Larimore?
Yeah, I did have a couple questions. I appreciate, I'll start off by saying I appreciate the intent of this. That being said, I also have some concerns, specifically staff time dedicated to this, the registration. Do we have a staff member that would be able to take on this additional workload, or would we have to hire additional staff in order to cover this?
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and council members. Councilmember Lorimer, that's a very good question. We do currently have several staff that handle business registration. We have our front office staff. We have 2 members of the clerk's office, as well as 2 members of our finance department that handle this as a kind of a joint venture. So it does not appear that this would involve additional staff on the processing side. It may involve additional staff hours on the inspection side, obviously. And with that, there's going to be a cost recovery. So we would be bringing back at the next council meeting a proposal for an amendment to the ordinance to allow us to charge a fee for recovery of inspection services.
Okay, and on that note, have we had any feedback from the Chamber of Commerce regarding home-based businesses and their feelings towards this?
No, sir, we have not.
Okay. And do we have an idea at this point in time as to the cost that we would be looking to recover?
Councilmember Lorimer, I think my understanding in talking with the building official that the inspection cost would be, I believe he said would be identical to our rental registration inspection, which I think is $137, $147. So they felt that that inspection would be the same as the rental registration. And so we're looking at that fee as being the one fee that we would be using. And that would be part of the fee that we would be charging for the business registration certificate at the same time. So that when that clears, we would give them the certificate and the inspection would be done as well.
Okay, follow-up question. Bringing this forward today, again, I appreciate where we're trying to go with this, but I do have some concerns as stated here and it indicated by my questions. Is there an urgency in passing this today?
I believe, sir, that there are exigent circumstances that exist today that warrant us to proceed forward with this because I've seen this in other cities before where once, and I'll give you a particular example, are garage conversions. And what happens is that a lot of people will use their garages to conduct a particular business. And I know in my own experience in dealing with our code enforcement, we've seen probably a half a dozen garages that have been converted into an entire business whereby the cars are no longer able to park in the garage as required by code. Once that happens and it starts to spread, it's very difficult to abate garage conversions. Once they've really facilitated their operations in. And I think it's a lot easier, and again, we stress that this is more proactive. This would enable us to keep that from spreading, as well as any other type of illegal uses that may be occurring. We're just seeing more of those happening right now, and we don't want to be on the tail end of reacting to it, but trying to be more proactive. Again, what we're trying to do is, and the inspection is really basically going to be looking at, hey, the proposed business, an example, the garage. We don't want to make sure that the garage is converted into something where there may create a health and safety problem. We've seen that a couple times. So we want to just make sure that the building inspector goes out and says, look, if you want to do something like that, you're going to have to make some adjustments. Or that type of particular use is not warranted or authorized under the code, so we can stop them at that point rather than trying to go after them after they've been operating. So in answer to your question, we do think that there's exigent circumstances that exist right now to go forward with this. But that's your decision if you wish to do so.
I also have privacy concerns, and I also, when we have a fee, it could be viewed as a tax on business. I would like to make the motion, and up to everybody else here, to postpone this item until we have the fee in place to the next meeting, or continue this item to the next meeting. But again, I appreciate the intent, but I do have some concerns at this time. So,
I had a comment for city attorney, a question. So when an inspection is done, the scope of the inspection is for the purpose of verifying if the use that it was asked for is actually being done.
That's correct, sir.
But when the inspection is done, if there are any other code violations that are observed during the inspection, we have the ability to take corrective action or enforcement for any violation.
Yeah, now keep in mind, and it's well known in law enforcement that if there are any violations that are seen by the inspector in plain view, yes, you're correct. But that does not give the inspector the authorization to go and make a search or inspection around the entire house or any other place, because that would be unauthorized. It would only be, again, looking at the particular use or the business that they're proposing to make sure that, number one, it conforms to our zoning requirements, and two, it conforms to the building and the building code requirements. If there are violations that exist or something else that's going on that are in violation, sure, they'll take note, and then we can give that to code enforcement. That's what we're trying to do. This is not a deterrent. This is not a deterrent. This is only to enable us to be more proactive, to make sure that these type of illegal uses don't keep spreading.
Thank you. Councilman Rush?
Thank you. I'm in favor of moving forward with this today. My only concern on the fee, and I know from a staff perspective, it's going to be relatively the same as the rental inspection ordinance, but the businesses are maybe not the same. The income levels and revenue streams might differ. Someone paying $2,500 a month in rent, yeah, $140, $170, is a little bit of drop in the bucket. Versus, if you're running a bakery out of your home and you're bringing in $400 or $500 a month. So I think we need to have cost recovery, but I would make it from the perspective that we don't put an additional burden and just create another black market, as you will, and make it into a situation where folks are just going to avoid it altogether, and then that compounds the problem. So.
Was that a motion, Councilman Larimore?
It was a motion to continue the item to the next meeting, but if I don't have a second.
There's no second. It fails for lack of second.
Do I have a motion to approve?
Adam. Hold on.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Councilmember Livermore?
Based on the not knowing the fees, I'm going to have to vote no at this time.
Councilmember Rush?
Yes.
Councilmember Simmons?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Cesari?
Aye.
Motion passes 3-1.
And that was a motion to adopt the ordinance, correct?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
The resolution for the fee will be presented to you next time, which we will provide some of the input that you're bringing into that as well.
Thank you.
And just for clarification, the fee would require approval.
Yes, that's correct, sir.
But we do the fee on a resolution, so if we need to change it really quickly, up or down, we can do that.
And
Thank
and
you,
we
sir.
we would present options to you on that as well.
Thank you. We're going to move on to 9.4, contract services for code enforcement staff augmentation.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor Pro Tem and council members. This item is being brought to you per your request at the last council meeting of September 28th. This is to augment the code enforcement staffing levels in order to allocate more time and resources to investigating suspected birthing home operations within the city of Eastvale. These investigations are done on a case-by-case basis. The investigations do not focus on immigration issues, but they focus primarily on the business use and proving that there is a business and potential code enforcement violations or building code violations. As I said, the investigations are very time-consuming, and it involves code enforcement, building inspectors, our finance department, because we are checking business registration and rental registrations, as well as the city attorney's office and a Mandarin interpreter. The investigative efforts are ongoing, therefore we will not be providing details or disclosing information at this time. This position is a contract position. It is not a permanent position with City Hall. This is not a benefited position, so we will not be paying sick or overtime or any medical benefits. Again, this is a contract position, and we are asking for a budget amendment not to exceed $50,000 from the contingency fund. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
My only question would be, it's within our budget, right? I mean, we have the money for this?
Yes, sir, from the contingency fund.
It's not in the budget, but we have money set aside to pay for it.
But it would be augmented by fine, recovery of fines?
If there are fines, yes.
What kind of time frame are we looking at?
Should you approve this
Yes.
evening? Starting as soon as next Monday.
Anyone else?
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
I'll second. No.
Sorry.
Where are we here on
Councilmember Livermore?
this? Aye.
Councilmember Rush?
Aye.
Councilmember Simmons?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Cesari?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0.
We're going to move on to item 10, city manager and staff report.
No report at this time?
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem Cesari and council members and residents and other fellow staff members. Just a few updates for you. We are currently in the midst of Fire Prevention Week. We've partnered, obviously, we contracted with Cal Fire and shared it on our social media webpage. And the point or the goal of Fire Prevention Week is for residents to check their smoke detectors. City Hall will be participating in the Great Shakeout on October 20th. We ask that you stop by City Hall at 10:20 a.m. to participate in the world's largest earthquake drill. On October 27th, the city is hosting a public safety forum at the Eastville Gateway Food Court. This is in collaboration with the Eastville Crime Watch and Reporting page. On October 22nd, there will be a drug take-back day at the Ruby Valley Sheriff Station. And on November 5th, I apologize, is the residential cleanup and paper shredding event at Ramirez Intermediate. This is a free cleanup. We had one back in July, and it was very successful. Last week, on October 5th, the City of Eastville participated for a 4th year in International Walk to School Day. On internet, I do have a PowerPoint with some photos for all of you and our residents that are present. Walk to School Day is to raise awareness of the need to create safer routes for walking, bicycling, or scooting, with emphasis on the importance of increasing physical activity among children, pedestrian safety, and traffic congestion for the environment. We did collaborate with our partner agencies, including Corona Unified School District, the Safe Routes to School Riverside County Coalition, all of the Eastville principals, PTAs, staff, JCSD, CAL FIRE, and the Riverside Sheriff's Department. This year, we spent $829.97 to purchase water bottles and safety vests for each school site's volunteers, scooters for each elementary school, and $100 was spent at each intermediate school and at ERHS, Eleanor Roosevelt, for spirit items to be raffled off for 2 participants. Additional items were provided by the Safe Routes to School Riverside County Coalition. This budget did not include staff times to attend meetings, communications collaborating with the school sites, shopping or picking up items, delivering supplies to each school in Eastville. Here are some photos. They are available on the city's Facebook page. But this was Roosevelt High School. It's very uncommon for high schools to participate in International Walk to School Day. So the fact that Eleanor Roosevelt did, we're very excited. They had greeted students at each of their entrances along with RSO representatives. Public Safety Commissioner Howard May also did make an appearance and walked it out with the students. Councilmember Simmons met at Providence Park and walked with students to Ramirez Intermediate School. They also received a police escort. So they did hold traffic at certain crosswalks.
They tried to ditch me.
We did have RSO representatives and CAL FIRE. The new fire station was present at Eastville Elementary, along with city staff, where CAL FIRE and RSO representatives did remind students rather to wear their helmets while riding their bike. It's not any good on handlebars. Here are some more photos. And these are members from Corona Unified School District and the Riverside County Coalition, Safe Routes to School Coalition, that participated at Rosa Parks. And if you look closely in this first photo, you might see a few faces you recognize from Corona Norfolk Unified School District.
Not seeing it.
Bill Newberry and Dr. Lynn. So thank everyone for walking. All of the school sites did, the school sites I have heard back from said that they did see a tremendous impact in the decrease in traffic. Ronald Reagan did report that the impact actually lasted for several days after this initial event. So it's very exciting that this is something that is sustainable. The city does have maps on our website that locate 5-minute walks, 10-minute walks, or 15-minute walks to school. So thank you, and I'm pass on.
I think I walked 6 miles.
Come on.
Or was it 0.6 miles?
Yeah, that's more like it. They were actually carrying him.
They walked too fast.
Mayor Pro Tem and members of City Council, just a brief report tonight. And I had the privilege of attending the International Walk to School Day with Mayor Pro Tem Tesseri, Lieutenant Forbes and I. Although we didn't walk very far, we did hand out some wristbands to the kids, and it was a fun event to participate in. But I wanted to give you a report tonight, giving you an update on the added efficiency of the additional 10 hours of service that the city elected to contract for beginning July 1st. So we've had our first 3 full months to take a look at that impact and compare it to some statistical data related to calls for service and response times. So the way the Sheriff's Department categorizes our responses are done on a priority basis of the nature of the call for service. We have 4 priorities. Priority 1 being the most urgent response required, and priority 4 is the least urgent matter to respond to. During that 3-month period, just calls for service increased by 100 over the previous year, 2015, same 3-month period. So our idea that increased population would increase calls for service rings true with that increase, but we did see a decrease in the average response time that the deputies were able to handle those calls. So our priority 1 calls, which is your, again, most urgent calls for service where it's an emergency situation, remained about the same. It's on average about 6 minutes for a deputy sheriff to respond to one of those calls. But the most frequently dispatched calls are priority 2s and 3s. These are matters that may require a deputy to respond to mitigate a dispute of some sort, however not deemed a violent threat at the time that the person's calling. But still, we want to have a deputy respond in person to take care of those. And priority 2 calls decreased by 2 minutes, average response times. And that was an average of 500 calls in that 3-month period. So from 2015 to 2016, a 2-minute decrease in the average. And then priority 3s saw a decrease of 7 minutes. So in 2015, that took on average about 40 minutes for a deputy to respond to. In 2016, the same period with that additional deputy being strategically placed on a shift that most calls occur, decreased by 7 minutes down to 32 minutes overall. And then our priority 4 calls, this is a call where maybe a resident comes home and finds that they've been an unfortunate victim of a burglary or some other crime, but there's no suspect that is still in the vicinity or really no suspect information, but still requires a deputy to respond in order to take a good police report so that we can conduct follow-up investigation. Those calls responses decreased by 9 minutes. So in 2015, it took our deputies about an hour to respond to those incidents, and in 2016, the same period of time with that increased staff ratio decreased to 52 minutes, so a 9-minute decrease. So I think that bodes well. It's still early, but obviously good stats for now to show that added deputy has shown some efficiencies, at least in our ability to respond quicker to resident calls. And then the second item that I have to update you on is our ongoing mail theft situation in town. As you're more than aware, there's been a rash of mail thefts, particularly in locations where there are community mailboxes situated. And I want to call to the council's attention that this is not exclusive to the city of Eastvale. This is occurring throughout our region and Southern California to be exact. And in our ability to investigate these, we've thrown the full weight of our resources to it. And I'm happy to report in just the last 2 weeks, we've made 3 individual arrests of subjects who we believe are linked to mailbox thefts in the city of Eastvale. With them, we found, obviously, items of stolen property that link them to these crimes. And we've received cooperation from the U.S. Postal Service, and we are seeking that the U.S. Postal Service also file on their behalf for federal-related crimes against these individuals. That's not to say that these crimes will stop, but I want to make sure that council and everybody that's here tonight knows that we take them very seriously and we are addressing them to the best of our ability. And then the third matter that I wanted to update you on, one of the calendar items that if I could get you to write this date down, and it's already been, the date itself has already been given out by Daniela, but October 27th is a Thursday, and here in town, obviously, they're hosting a community event where Assistant Chief Forbes is going to show up and give an update to residents over in the food court at the Eastvale Gateway Center. That same evening, I will not be attending the Eastvale event because I will be representing the Sheriff's Department at a Academy graduation ceremony, which is occurring at the Grove Community Church in the city of Riverside. And the reason why I wanted to give you that date is if you're not able to make the community event and you're able to instead attend that graduation, I certainly wanted to invite you to that, as the sheriff and I enjoy having our elected officials attend. And some of you have attended in the past, and I wanted to point out that Mayor Pro Tem Tesseri attended a recent Academy graduation, and one of the graduates at that Academy graduation was just gunned down this last weekend. That was Leslie Zarevny, was at that graduation that Mayor Pro Tem Tesseri was able to attend. And I think it's fitting tonight that I recommend that we close our council meeting with a special tribute to those two officers, along with the Sheriff Sergeant Owen and LASO in their memory. But if you're not able to attend this Academy graduation, I certainly invite you to future ones, but would love to have you as my guest at that, and I can give you more information if you would like. And that's all I have tonight.
Question? And thank you for that. I was actually going to make the same suggestion during my comments that we close in memory of Sergeant Owen, Officer Vega, and Leslie Zerbini, I think. In regards to the October 27th event, what is your department's position going to be on kind of question and answers? I've just received a lot of input of, I really want to attend to talk about vehicle thefts or mail thefts or, package thefts and things of that nature. Kind of, I know it's not our event, so I was just curious on, one, you probably heard about, but be aware, and a lot of people, are interested in having kind of an ongoing Q&A. So I didn't know if that was the format, if it was just going to be Lieutenant Forbes. I don't want to stick him with, a mob of people. So
I'm glad you brought that up, Councilmember Rush. That's a great question. And we were invited to that event by members that maintain a Facebook page here in town known as Eastvale Crime Report. One of the persons who manages that page is named Don Pettinger. I personally met with him to ask him those same exact questions. What exactly is our role? Because as you know, in addition to council meetings, public safety commission meetings, the city also has quarterly town hall meetings where the police department has always given a report and been available to answer any questions that residents may have. And in my response to Mr. Pettinger, I think that's a better venue because there are all the other governmental agencies who are in attendance at those town hall meetings. And those have been going on since before city's inception. However, he encouraged us to participate in this particular event because, in his opinion, there were a number of residents who had some concerns about some criminal-related activity in town, one of them being mail thefts, things of that nature. And it's never a bad time for us to engage the community, be available to answer questions that they may have. He assured us that there would be a sizable enough crowd for us to have folks to engage with. So what we've asked him to do is to send out a questionnaire to the folks who are planning to attend so that we can have, not so that we can be prepared to give patented answers, more to be able to do research that we may not be able to provide that evening, so that we don't just say, we'll get back to you. So we're going to have some questions in advance that he's going to give us to be able to respond to. Certainly we don't want to be there the entire evening, so we'll probably limit it to a certain amount of questions. But our role simply is to highlight some of the things like I've done tonight to the residents, encourage them to continue with Neighborhood Watch ventures. That we have 11 strong Neighborhood Watch programs that currently exist in the city that are very successful. Encourage those who are not participating in those to begin participating in those, give them instructions on how to do so. But I think the goal will be just to create an open line of communication and build that confidence to the residents that may not know all the things that we are doing, that they have a solid police department in place that's taking care of business, and give them links to folks that they may want to get in contact with in the future if they have any other problems.
Appreciate that. The other question I had was on the mail theft, and I think one of the things that a lot of time goes under the radar a little bit is the fallout and the impact to the victims. As with most crimes, the increase in arrests, the additional things we're doing are great. Are there any additional resources that could help the victims of these crimes? I know the largest impact is especially in areas that don't have HOAs, and we've fixed this post facto, but for existing developments, getting folks together, I've just heard horror stories of the post office not really being interested in helping fixing the mailboxes, getting them repaired, things of that nature. Is it worth it to tap into any victims funds, victim rights advocacy groups? Are they going to even care, or are they more focused on kind of the bigger issues? I just didn't know if there's any other resources that we could provide out there to either help from a monetary perspective, or a lot of people don't know what to do and the rules, and they just think to go down to the post office and then they get the bureaucratic black hole. So.
Yeah, and this is just my personal opinion. You ask other law enforcement professionals, they may have a different opinion, but this is mine. You're correct that given the current legislative climate within the state in terms of the classification of crimes being lessened over the last few years, that there are more serious crimes that the court may be interested in when we file them for charges to be leveled against individuals. That's why we're going after the persons we've arrested from a federal standpoint involving the U.S. Postal Service. In terms of the victimology, this is a crime of opportunity where folks who are engaged are simply trying to arm themselves with information that they can use to defraud people through things like identity theft. So one of the things that we talk about with victims is their own personal involvement in protecting their identities. There are mechanisms out there for you to be able to do so, constantly running your credit, checking on your bank statements regularly, ensuring that you have tabs on all of your credit cards, things of that nature, checking checks that are mailed to you, things of that nature. But in terms of there being financial resources out there it would be through the courts in terms of victim advocacy. That's on an individual basis, and it comes after a conviction of a perpetrator, and the court works with that individual victim for restitution. And I'm not aware of any of those things occurring in our city yet. That's not to say they couldn't. But my staff certainly will walk through these questions with any resident, any concerned resident here in town. That's what we're here for, and if any questions need to be answered, my staff will provide those to those either victims or potential victims.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilmember Rush, if I could also add, We have worked with the USPS and Congressman Calvert's office, and city staff did put together an FAQ, if you will, on what to do if you are a victim of, cluster mailbox theft, who you can call, the telephone number at the USPS, because they do want you to report it to them as well as the sheriff's department. And we also provided if you need to do repairs to the cluster mailbox, the USPS has given us a list of vendors that they do not necessarily individually endorse, but it's a resource list of vendors in the area that are that provide the services and the models and whatnot. So that is on the city's website, and it was sent out via e-notification, 2 months ago. And so we have been providing that information to residents. Also, if I could also add, with regards to the Crime Watch event on October 27th, there is a bit of miscommunication. That is a city event. We are working with Mr. Pettinger to host that and promote it, but the city has taken over the lead position on putting that event together. So Daniela's working on that. She has designed a flyer, and we're working with Lewis Retail regarding, insurance and liability and putting the stage there, and so
Sounds good.
we will have staff resources there and a city table for information. Thank you.
Mr. Simmons, anything?
No, just thanks for the report, and I'm in agreement with the chief that we need to encourage citizens to participate in the town hall meetings, because that back and forth at Q&A, it does help. And but I want to thank the chief and everybody concerned with everything you're doing. Fire chief, Justin. Eastville is a great place to live. That's all I have.
Councilman Lattimore?
Yes, thank you. I had the opportunity to make it out to Palm Springs over the past couple days, and for my day job, and the community out there is absolutely devastated. And I know that we have a lot of public safety living in our community, and the community absolutely stands behind our law enforcement, and it's just a tragedy what took place out there. And that community in Palm Springs is still reeling. A couple of things. It's October, and it's a very busy month in terms of meetings, so I apologize in advance. I've got to run through these, though. Today, I was able to attend with Councilmember Simmons the Southern California Economic Forecast this morning in Ontario. Very informative, huge crowd, and also Todd Rigby was there. So. On the 3rd, it was the shortest meeting that I can recall for the RCA, the Riverside County Conservation Authority. It was over in under 15 minutes. We need to have meetings like that, guys. But the main part was closed-door session. October 5th through 7th, the League Annual Conference took place, and at that meeting, I was there with Mayor Pro Tem Tessari. And it was a very fruitful conference in terms of networking. And to report out of that, I was also officially appointed as the division director, which was elected internally to the league board. And that has a place now. I have a place now on the league state board. So, which is very good for us in terms of advocating on behalf of the city. And one of the things that came out of the League State Board meeting was a opposition to Proposition 57, that all the cities, well, with the exception of 2 voting members, and 2 voting members abstained and 1 did not, but the rest of them did vote in favor to oppose Prop 57, and Prop 57 is a continuation of 47 and
AB 109.
109. So keep that in mind when going to the voting box. Also on Monday, the league is going crazy right now. Had the league golf tournament, and that was great. And Councilmember Tesseri was there as well. October 11th, that was yesterday. Went to the SCAG Housing Summit in LA, and great turnout again, talking about the housing crisis in California and how the cost of not housing. October 16th, coming up, there's a SCAG Transportation Conference, and that'll go for a couple days. I'll be attending that. October 21st, Mobility 21, their annual summit will be taking place in, I believe, Anaheim, and I will be participating in that, and I believe that's open invitation to all of you gentlemen. And also October 27th, SCAG will be hosting the Energy, Water, and Green Summit, and that's going to be taking place out in the desert from 8:30 to 4. If you would like more information on that, please talk to me after. Thank you.
Councilman Rush, you have anything else?
I just wanted to acknowledge inaugural council member Kelly Howells in the audience.
Yeah.
Decided to join us today. And as mentioned, recommend that we adjourn in memory of the officers who were recently slain. And that's all I have.
All members.
Thank you. Yeah, regarding Prop 57 and the mailboxes, my personal opinion is there's a direct correlation to the amount of mail theft that's been going on and the fact that Prop 47 passed and AB 109 occurred. It's going on in every community, just like you mentioned, and the actual theft is just the tip of the iceberg. The entire, it's what the intent is when that theft occurs. It's all behind identity theft. That there's no other purpose. There's nothing of value inside the mailboxes other than people's personal information. One of the things I wanted to ask is for staff to look into the viability of creating some type of reimbursement program where people, neighborhoods that invest in providing more security for their cluster boxes. I know you brought up the company that's certified by UPS that will do modifications to the mailboxes. So if they go out and they do this, also maybe we could come up with some guidelines on lighting. I think lighting has a big impact on which cluster boxes are being hit. The ones that are off in the dark are obviously much more inviting targets to these people. So if we could maybe come up with some guidelines and you know, if you could give us something in the near future on the viability of creating a reimbursement program for that, I would appreciate it. I just wanted to extend what everybody's already commented on. It's been a pretty horrific week. But please extend to your subordinates how grateful we are for the risks that they take. And as asked for, I'd like to officially close this meeting in honor of all of those who've fallen this week. Meeting adjourned.